It's real. It's here right now. The one and only Miley Cyrus.
Hello, Jimmy Fallon.
I love you. I just felt like I was just talking to you seconds ago.
We basically were talking 2 seconds ago. You know, it's really funny to be like, oh yeah, I need 10 minutes. Like I'm just coming down from my show, you know. But doesn't hosting a show? I mean, it's kind of crazy because even though it is just this kind of Instagram live, everyone's been calling it a show. Like it is just an Instagram live, but people have been calling Bright Minded a show. And I feel like I get more of a rush and like an adrenaline, you know, kind of rush more than even if I would be performing. Like, cause it's just the back and forth and all of a sudden, you know, you have your idea, you have your planned questions and all those things, but it never goes in that direction because people say something wonderful that's more interesting than what you wanted to ask them.
Yeah, you're right. But then also we were talking to D Nice and talking about his DJ things. I go, doesn't it feel weird not doing it in front of an audience? And he was like, it does in one way, but in a different way, it was more exciting because I was looking at hearts going up the screen.
Right.
Love this song. And then people commenting about like, oh, that was a great song. Whereas if you have a concert, no one's going to be like, hey, can I say something? I thought that was a great performance. I want to hear
I had that idea one time, and I had like a little phone that I was giving fans the numbers and telling them to text me what songs they wanted to hear next, so I could check it on the phone. And then, you know, there's nothing worse than like, I remember doing a concert. Oh, my dog knows how to open the door. This is real. He just opened the door. He's literally like 14 weeks and he knows how to open the door. Hold
on. Good boy.
It's crazy. He like comes in here and jumps on the show. But so I gave some fans my number and was like, oh, just text me what songs you want to hear. But then all of a sudden I started just getting bombarded by text messages and I couldn't keep up with it. But what made me want to do that was I did Boy Named Sue, one of my favorite Johnny Cash songs.
Oh,
my fans don't give a they don't want to hear that. They want to hear Part of the USA and they want to go home. So I started doing Boy Named Sue, and it just didn't go over very well. So I'm like, all right, well, what do you guys want to listen to? So you can just text me and let me know.
People are saying too now in this quarantine time, there's no real way to hang up on someone because everyone knows you don't have to do anything.
Well, yeah. What about when someone says, I'll get right back to you? Why? Why can't you tell me right now? Don't you
what
have
are you doing? We're all at home.
You can just tell me now. As if, yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Yeah, that's
Well, you have like over 100 million followers on Instagram, and you've been doing this now almost 3 weeks. What made you want to start a talk show? What made you want to? Thank you for doing it, but why?
So I wanted, you know, I am, whether it's with my music or I just want to connect with people. Like, you know, like you said, kind of on your show, I'll talk to pretty much anyone. Like I love to connect with people. I love to get to know someone. And it was very like abrupt, kind of all this happening. Like there wasn't very much, it just seemed like all of a sudden we were on this lockdown and we are socially disconnected. But it didn't seem like there was a lot of time to kind of adjust to the new way that things were going to be. So it was very like startling and it just caused me a lot of anxiety. And I think a lot of people, a lot of panic, and you felt, you know, it just, I really just felt really alone and scared. And so I guess by remembering I do have those 105, you know, more than followers, it's like friends. And I thought of my followers now as friends and how can I connect with them? And then, you know, I think, you know, 1 is the loneliest number. And it's like, I wanted to connect again. And even though, you know me, I can't sit at home and just like do nothing. I got to entertain and connect in some way.
That's so interesting. Cause honestly, I didn't even think about that, but I think I felt the same way where I was going like, maybe I was like feeling anxiety and feel like I didn't want to just, you know, disappear and not, I wanted to be here for anyone, for you, for anyone, but because they're always there for me, I was like, I want to be here when you need me.
Yeah, you really, you know, I'm sure like with your show and with your family and with your kids and with your, like there's a schedule and there's a routine and there's a pattern that usually gives us a lot of comfort, you know, as someone that's kind of known for being like, I'm wild and carefree, but with a calendar, you know, wild, carefree, calendar. The have fun will be in my calendar.
Yeah,
you know,
that's on Wednesday. I'm having fun on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, I'm going to have fun. So I like to be structured as well. And this did not give us time to find a new normal.
No.
all of a sudden, you know, and I think that's where I think it's really important we draw attention to the mental health issues that'll be surrounding this time, not just the physical health, but mental health, because it's a really, you know, it's a trip. And so I think that's also what really made me want to do this show is I wanted to highlight things like not just hearing about the infection and like the illness itself, but the kind of mental stress this is going to cause. It just made me feel comforted to connect with people, but not having a routine and not having structure. For someone like me, that's when I do get into trouble, is when I don't have structure. So even with myself, you know, it just gives you a lot of time to, I guess I can't really make too bad of decisions. There's not really anything I can do in the house, but.
How did you come up with the name Bright Minded?
So Bright Minded is actually an exercise that Dr. Amen taught me, and Dr. Amen was my first guest on the show, and he's been my therapist for 10 years. And at a time when I had just come off, I'd just come off Hannah Montana. I was 17, and I never had not had the structure. Every day since I was 11, I would go to set, be there at 8 in the morning, you know, leave at 5 p.m. I had a 9 to 5 by the time I was 12. And I wasn't used to, you know, that's when I kind of started getting into trouble and like experimenting and hanging with the wrong people, because all of a sudden I didn't have that structure anymore and it was dangerous for me. And so he taught me an exercise called Bright Minds. Like M in mind stands for memory. So it's attaching yourself to when you're feeling anxiety or depression, attaching to a great memory. So, you know, when you're struggling with anxiety or depression, there's always an excuse why you can't do this. So he said, you know, find something in your house that reminds you of a time, like, you know, find a doll that your grandma gave you and think about that memory. And I'm like, well, I'm always traveling. I'm in these unknown hotel rooms. I can't do that. And he's like, go to your suitcase and, you know, find something in there that you can attach to a great memory. So find a yellow sweatshirt. And that reminds me of bananas, and bananas remind me of my brother, because when I was little, we didn't like the way my parents were running the house. So we decided we were going to move into our tree house, but we only got bananas. So we got really over bananas within 2 hours. So we like robbed my grandma of all her trail mix, because she's really yummy trail mix with marshmallows in it. And
breakfast, lunch, and dinner were bananas?
Yeah, my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Me and my brother were like, we are out of here. You guys aren't running things the way that it should be. We don't like that we're not allowed to play freaking Nintendo after 6. You guys suck. Bye. We're moving to the dollhouse. And then all we brought was bananas. So my yellow sweatshirt in my suitcase reminds me of bananas, reminds me of my brother, reminds me how much I love him. My brother was on your show, my little brother.
He was fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, and he's beautiful. See, that's because he ate so many bananas.
On and on and on. I said, and it's on and on and on.